What's up with y'all? What's up with it?
What's up, homie?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, dude. How you doing?
Good, man. I was going to post up at the Starbucks, but they had holiday music playing. It would have been agitating for me doing the interview while Christmas carols
Yeah,
playing.
it's all
Yeah,
good, man. Gotta get in the holiday spirit a little bit, right?
yeah, the spirit is going, man. Every grocery store I went in got eggnog everywhere. That's my favorite drink, eggnog.
Good stuff, man. So what's going
Man,
on?
man, I'm glad to have you on, man. I've been doing this show for the past month and a half, 2 months. It's really taken off, and I'm very humbled that you allowed me to interview you.
Yeah, brother. Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate all the value you spit out there, man. And I know you're making a big impact in a lot of people's lives, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of switch it up this time and do somebody like that's in like commercial real estate, and I think you was the most qualified candidate I could think of that can
I
really speak on
appreciate that, dude.
all avenues. Because I've been following you for years, and I seen how you transitioned from the turnkey model to just taking this buying whole stuff to the next level.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I have so I got started in the residential realm, right? So I
Uh,
think a lot of people in real estate go through this progression model. And so, dude, when I was going through college, was '03 to '07. Dude, everybody's making money in real estate, right? If you had a pulse, if you had fog a mirror, you could make money in real estate. And so, when I was doing that, I just kind of I worked for a home builder as like an intern, right? And then I started my own
right.
little construction company, start renovating some houses. Not really renovating. I was like painting the outsides of houses, and then I thought, hey, you get involved in real estate by becoming a real estate agent. So I ended up moving out to New York City. My brother was living out there at the time. I'm from Ohio originally, and move out to New York City, become a real estate agent. And dude, I brokered. I was in commercial real estate, so I'd either represent businesses or I'd represent a landlord who was looking to market their retail space or their office space. And I brokered a 400 square foot space, like dude, the size of a couple of bedrooms, right? Like really, really
Wow.
small. And in Manhattan, it took me 8 months to broker it, and it was a $10,000 a month lease, right?
Wow.
Over 12-year term with 4% increases. And I was like, holy cow, this landlord who did something at one point in time is going to get paid for the next 12 years nearly $2 million for doing that. And I'm like, dude, I'm on the wrong side of the coin. I need to be owning real estate, instead of brokering real estate. So I ended up moving down to Charleston, South Carolina. Just wanted better weather and just kind of on a whim kind of thing. And didn't know anybody down there and decided I wanted to be a real estate investor. So moved down to Charleston, hanging out. All of a sudden, '08 happens and everything crashes,
Right.
crumbles, and everybody's like, run away from real estate. I was like, I just showed up to the party. What are you talking about? Run away. So I'm like, well, screw it. Now prices are like way down here. I'm gonna figure this whole thing out. So I started like wholesaling um, and then I contacted my credit card company, got them to increase my credit card limit, um, and went and bought a house on my credit card. So I bought the cheapest house on the entire MLS and fixed it all up, and then I sold it to one of the neighbors, made about $14,000. First deal I've ever done. Worst housing cycle that's happened in the past 100 years, and I'm a punk 23-year-old kid at the time, and I'm making money. I was like, dude, this is easy, right? Do it again,
Right.
do it again. Get into wholesaling pretty heavily. I love wholesaling. I still love wholesaling. Um, very little risk, very little downside with a lot of upside. And you can wholesale apartment buildings too. But anyways, so I get back into the like the renovation, flipping houses, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm going through this progression, right? I work in real estate as an intern. I get become an agent. Then I start wholesaling real estate. Then I start flipping real estate. Then I get into started holding some small single family kind of rentals. And dude,
Right.
at the age of 25, man, I had 10 units, um, all single family, one duplex, and two, yeah, all single family, one duplex. And dude, I'm financially free. I wasn't rich. I wasn't rich by
Right.
any means, but I had enough income coming in to cover all my operating expenses, all my payments, and my cash flow from those 10 houses, 10 units, was $3,000 a month. My total
Wow.
overhead as a 25-year-old kid was like two G's or something, right? So I got $1,000 a month in excess. That's like, after my going out expenses and my own rent and my own car payment and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, dude, I'm financially free at 25. So I go down this road of looking for other businesses and being a serial entrepreneur, how that goes. And when people tell me they're a serial entrepreneur, that means they're not making any money. Because when you got your
Exactly.
hands and it's spread across way too many things, dude, you're not focused.
Right.
And I actually got into a network marketing business and drank that juice a little bit. It was awesome from a personal development exposure and the people that I met and all that kind of stuff. But I got different skill sets, right? And you have different skill sets. And so that was cool, but I couldn't really make any money. And dude, I was on the top 1%. I was only making like 25, 30 grand a year. I was like, I got to get out of this. So I'm sure it works for a lot of people. It just didn't work for me. And I just said, hey, I could make more in real estate, and I was financially free before I did any of this stuff. So I decided to get back in real estate. A couple guys actually from that company hit me up and they said, hey man, we want to invest heavily in real estate. We got into this because we wanted to have money to go and buy real
Right.
estate. And so they approached me and put up a couple $100,000 and essentially told me to go get to work with it. So this is 2012, 2013 now. And by the way, when I was doing the whole network marketing thing, dude, it was like I was putting 30,000 miles a year on my car. I was going out to all these events and staying in hotels and not staying in hotels because I ended up going totally broke, dude. I had $25,000 of credit card debt. I had $80 in my bank account,
Wow.
and like paying for gas with the coins out of the cup holder of my car, like going to Subway and eating, like ordering. Dude, I was intermittent fasting before it was cool to intermittent fast. You know what I mean? Just because I couldn't freaking afford food, man. So I would not eat until lunchtime, and then I'd go and buy a foot-long sub. I'd eat half of it for lunch. I'd eat half of it for dinner, or I'd go and buy like one of these like $6 whole chickens from the grocery store, right? And eat half of
Right.
it for lunch, half of it for dinner, and do, like eating peanut butter out of the jar. Like that's what my life was. I borrowed money to make the minimum payment on my credit card in 2000. It was August of 2012. So broke as I've ever been. I decide I got to get out of that. I need to want to get back in real estate. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have any doors that are opening, but we make declarations to the universe, dude. Things happen. So these guys kind of approached me and they said, "Hey, we'll put up the money, you do the work, and we'll carve up the equity somehow." And dollars the first year. It was about 300 grand. And then over the course of like 2 years, they ended up putting a little over $1 million in. And I did a little bit of everything. We started flipping some single family houses, high end, low end, buying and holding some single family rentals, duplexes, quadplexes, that kind of stuff. And with like flipping it all because we were just taking that existing pile of cash and turning it into more. And so I turned it into about $3 million over the course of a couple of years. And we had about, I don't know,
So you turned the initial $1 million into $3 million in liquidity.
yeah, well, I mean, it was of property, right? And
Okay.
so
Okay.
it was deployed into the properties, three and a half million bucks worth of property. Today, shit,
Okay.
it's
I
probably
got you.
worth it would have been worth in today's values probably double that, So this is back in 2014, 15,
Okay.
and before the market started going crazy. And so I just, at that time, when I was going through that whole trying to figure out what met my goals the best and what resonated with me the best, it ended up being apartments. So I got rid of all the flips. I'm a shitty flipper. I'm really not good at it. I'm not good at, like, I have attention to detail, but I'm not good at managing people to get them to have attention to detail.
Right.
And so I'm bad at flipping houses. I get in the turnkey space. Well, let me back up a second. So that partnership, we had about 140, 150 units. It just, dude, people get in partnerships and everything's cool from the beginning because everybody has positive outlook on things.
Right.
When you lose money in a partnership, you really get to know somebody, and when you make money in a partnership, you really get to know somebody. And things just weren't congruent. There were things that I thought were unfair, things that maybe they thought were unfair. I'm sure they had their own story. I have my own story, and long story short, dude, it got a little bit ugly, but we ended up being cool and just decided to liquidate the entire portfolio. So at that time, I had like an exclusive agreement. I was only doing deals with those guys. And I did, part of the agreement was I can go and do deals on my own now. And so one of the things that I did was I started getting into the turnkey space, started wholesaling again, getting into the turnkey, ramped that up. I was doing about 80 to 120 houses a year for a couple of years. Started a management company because,
Right.
and then I was like kind of passively investing in sponsoring loans, raising money for some apartment buildings, and buying a couple small buildings on my own as well. And dude, after a couple of years of getting out of that partnership and doing the whole turnkey thing, it was August of 2017. I sat back and I was out at a lake house with my family and just on vacation for a couple of weeks. And I remember waking up one morning and grabbing a cup of coffee, dude, go out on the porch. I'm overlooking the lake, and it's absolutely beautiful, watching the sun come up. And I'm looking at my goals in really reflective state. And I'm like, am I going down the path that I want to go down? Am I pursuing what my long-term vision is? And I'm looking at my net worth, and I'm looking at where I spend my time, and I realize 90% of my net worth comes from my apartment buildings, and it's only 10% of my time. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing spending time on anything else, right?
Right. Right.
Like I got a daughter that's 4 years old, and she's big in all the Disney movies, right? And she's like, we were watching Alice in Wonderland, and Alice, you know, goes and chases the bunny down the rabbit hole, and then goes into Wonderland and goes through all these crazy adventures. And during that, she goes down this path and comes to a fork in the road. And the fork in the road, essentially, she doesn't know. She pauses and she doesn't know which way to go. And all of a sudden, this Cheshire cat appears up in the tree, and it's like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Cat. Do you know which path I should take?" And the cat goes, "Well, where are you going?" And Alice is like, "Well, I don't really know." And the cat's like, "I guess it doesn't matter then, right? Go
Right.
whatever the
Right.
hell path you want if you don't know where you're going." And like, I think like there's so many people who go through life with that mentality of like they don't know what the hell they're going. How do you create a roadmap to get someplace if you don't have a destination, right?
Right.
And I realized almost 2.5 years ago that apartments and building wealth and having a massive portfolio was where I wanted to go. And I think we all get into real estate because of that allure of passive income and residual income. And then all of a sudden, man, we get stuck in this transactional trap, right? This rat race, this hamster wheel of trading our time for money. And yeah, it's good. You can make a lot of money doing it. But at the end of the day, it's just a high paying job, And we get into
Exactly.
real estate to build wealth. And so I realized that's where I was building wealth. And low income, middle income people focus on income, right? On how much they're generating on an annual basis. Wealthy people focus on net worth, on their
Right.
balance sheet. And so if you're looking at your net worth making on an annual basis from actual cash coming in. So I realized that's where I wanted to do. And I showed up on Monday when I came back into the office, and I was like, listen, guys, we're not flipping houses anymore. We're only buying apartment buildings. That's it. I just drew a line in the sand, and that's what we've been focused on. So we wholesale smaller apartment buildings. We flip stuff that might be smaller or not in the areas that we want to hold long term, and then we buy and hold stuff that is bigger. So we buy and hold usually A and B class areas, 100 units or bigger, usually landlord-friendly states, and I have a portfolio of 3,208 units as of today, as we're talking right now, and I
Uh huh.
have another. I don't know if you could see this, but I got another 600, 264, 204. What is that? 500, almost 600 units of apartments closing in the next 45 days, and another 650 self-storage units. Two deals closing in the next
So
45 days.
so
So
so let's go into some questions because I have a series of questions I want to ask. Because most people, when you talk to them from a commercial standpoint, they just had that. Oh yeah, it's only apartments. Don't worry about wholesaling. They're real nonchalant about the transactional side. But you come from both sides, and to my opinion, I think that was your edge and advantage over the marketplace, where you was able to accumulate this big portfolio because you understand how to generate leads off market. You're not really relying on brokers as much as everybody else. So
exactly,
let's talk about that. How do you do your lead generation within your operation?
yeah, I come from the residential realm, so I've never taken a course. I've never read a book on this stuff of getting into apartments and commercial real estate. And I think a lot of us have this like I don't even know how to take the leap, right? I don't even know how to go out and do that. The answer is, dude, just do it, right? Go buy a friggin' 4 unit, go buy an 8 unit. All of a sudden, you accumulate a few small buildings like I did. I just organically grew it, and all of a sudden I was sitting on a couple hundred units. And then all of a sudden I could qualify now for another 200 units, and now I have 400 units. And then I have 400 units, I could go buy another 600 unit. Like, it just starts compounding. It's crazy, the snowball effect here. So, as far as lead gen and stuff goes, a lot of the gurus out there teach you to go and to create broker relationships. Here's what you need to understand. In residential real estate, there's a lot of red tape and stuff to make sure that, people who are not owners don't get taken advantage of. Like a little old lady inherits a property. Guess what? She never handled the finances or anything for the household. You need to make sure that some realtor or investor doesn't take advantage of her. So there's a lot of regulations in 4 units or smaller residential real estate.
Right.
When you get into commercial, there's none of that. You're buying property because you're an investor, so you're assumed to be sophisticated. So I'll give you an example, and this goes back to the broker thing. Brokers in residential real estate have to go out and list the property within 72 hours of getting the listing. If they don't, they're in violation of the MLS laws and rules and all that stuff, right?
Right.
If you're talking about commercial real estate, there is nothing like that. So a commercial realtor will get a listing, they'll put it in their pocket, they'll shop it around to the top 10, 20 buyers in town, and they'll sell it off market because they want to earn both sides of the commission. Does that make sense?
Right.
So,
It does.
yeah, so that's what they want to do. It won't even hit the market because they want to sell it to somebody where they can make double the commission. So if a deal does hit the market, you know what that means? That means the top 10 buyers in town all said no to it. So do you think it's a deal or not a deal? No, it's not a deal, right?
Right.
And so that's why you see only a bunch of crap on, LoopNet and the MLS and all that kind of stuff. So I don't like building broker relationships. Like a lot of the brokers in town know me just because I'm pretty active. So I'm becoming one of those top 10 buyers. And in Georgia, I'm probably a top 3 buyer in all of Georgia. I buy a lot of stuff down there. So I do get deals from broker relationships, but that's because I built those relationships and I'm on that buyer's list. If you're just getting started, you're not going to get deals, dude. They're going to send you a bunch of crap, the scraps that nobody else wanted to see if you're sophisticated enough to actually buy something or not buy something, sophisticated enough to not buy it, right?
Right.
So I source deals the same way that you source deals on the wholesale side, right? Drive for dollars, dial for dollars, direct mail. We don't really do RVMs, but you could do that. Text message blasts. You name it, relationships and all that kind of stuff. I usually don't spend too much money on advertising because I'm active on social media like you are, right? You got this big following. You know there's people who know you. They know that you're in real estate. You're not a super secret or agent trying to hide it from anybody. Like, hey, by the way, if I come across this deal in Maryland, guess what? I'm gonna send it to you, right?
Right.
So same thing happens with me. People send me deals just because they know that I'm an apartment buyer, and that takes time and repetition and consistency of letting people know that you buy apartments. So I do that, and then I took my existing. This is kind of the secret, right?
Right.
This is how I get majority of my deals. I took my existing wholesaler list. I got there it is, a fuzz in my mouth. Sorry. I took my existing wholesale list, and it was all residential wholesalers, brokers, agents, whatever. People who inquired on my properties over the course of 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. And I just put them on a list, and I just dripped an email every week saying I'm buying apartments, buying apartments, I'm buying apartments, I'm buying apartments, I'm buying apartments. Send me an apartment, I'll pay you a fee or kick you some equity in it even.
Right.
And so what I realized is a lot of residential wholesalers and investors come across commercial deals, but they don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to underwrite them, they don't know how to finance them, they don't know how to fund them or anything like that. And so if you put it out there that you're buying commercial real estate and you stay top of mind, when the deal does come across their desk, guess what? You're going to be top of mind. You're going to be the first one that they reach out to. And when that happens, boom, you get a deal that nobody else has access to.
So, what's the difference between underwriting a 10-unit deal and then looking at a 100-unit deal that might be worth $15 million? What's the difference in the mindset to be able to get that accomplished?
Dude, I have found that the size of somebody's success is most correlated to the size of their thinking, and that's it. It's not how smart they are. It's not how outgoing they are. It's not how analytical they are. It's not how what their education was. I don't care if they got a GED or a PhD, dude. It doesn't matter. If you think big, you can do big deals. I heard a quote. I don't know, a couple years ago. It was like, you play with dollars. Guess what? You're going to earn dollars, right?
Right.
If you play with thousands, you'll earn thousands.
Right.
If you play with millions,
Yeah, yes.
you earn millions,
I heard that
right?
same exact quote.
And so, like that really resonated with me. And dude, I saw some of these guys, girls, whoever they were, doing deals on the commercial side. I'm like, dude, they're not smarter than I am, right? If they're making money, I'm gonna get rich doing this, right?
Right,
And
right.
so, and so there's a lot of that out. Like I don't come from a lot of wealth. I don't come from like my great granddad didn't own a bunch of apartments. My dad didn't own, like, he owned one duplex, right, and hated it the entire time that he owned it. He was a cop, right, and I never went to Wharton School of Business. I went to a public university right here in Ohio, and yeah, like I don't come from all that stuff, and so to me it was always like super complicated, super complex. And the reality is, it's just adding a couple zeros, right? It's
Right,
actually
right.
easier to do bigger deals than it is to do smaller deals. Like I'm in all these masterminds, like you said. I know guys flipping 200, 300, 400 houses a year. Dude, I bought 20 buildings this year. Now it was 2,000 units, right? So, but guess what? I negotiate with 20 sellers, not 200 sellers.
Right.
I drive to 20 locations, not 200 locations, right? I get financing on 20 properties versus 200 properties. It's just, it's way more efficient. Like, like going and flipping houses is a very customized thing. You have to like customize it to the neighborhood, to the price point, and all these different things. Dude, apartments, I'll take you to any of the 3,200 units that I own. Um, I haven't bought 2,000 yet, but with these closings, I'll be at over 2,000 units that I bought this year. But I can take you to any one of the apartment buildings that I own, have you blindfolded, Antoine, take you inside, spin you around a few times, uncover your eyes and say, hey, where are you? And you wouldn't know where you are because they all look exactly the same. Like I
So,
have the same luxury vinyl plank tile flooring. I have the same wall color. I have the same cabinets. I have the same countertops. I have the same appliances across the board. And so there's efficiencies in that, meaning you can go in and educate your contractor on how to invest, how to fix this one unit. Okay, they go through the learning curve
right.
on that one unit. Then do it again on unit number 2. Dude, by the time they get to unit number 85, they got this thing down to a science where they're cruising through these renovations.
So do you give credit to your turnkey experience? That's the reason why you're able to go ahead and turn these units over, and as well as with the turnkey experience, do you think that the flipping that you did actually translated to you being able to manage your budget? I noticed on your Facebook lives you say you always under budget when you come to doing these repositionings. How could you compare the repositioning to a person who's actually flipping? Because that's what you're doing, right? You
Yeah, yeah. The same way that as you get into more, I don't want to call it sophisticated, just like higher level, bigger deals in real estate. I went from an agent to a wholesaler to a flipper to a turnkey to a property management company to like all these different things, right? And I find that there's a lot of contractors, general contractors, who go through that same transition. They start out being a handyman, or working for somebody else. Then they start their own handyman business. Then all of a sudden they start doing additions. Then all of a sudden they start renovating entire houses. Then all of a sudden they start building single-family homes. Then all of a sudden they get into some more commercial type stuff. And then they're like, why don't I just build hotels instead of this other stuff? Or why don't I renovate 300-unit apartment contracts versus $10,000 contracts? And so what you'll find is that the guys who know business, the contractors who know business, the property managers who know business, not just the swinging of the hammers, but actually understand business and accountability and fulfillment and have the integrity to do what they say that they're going to do and see it through. And they have access to bank accounts and financing. And they're not chasing you down on Friday after every week asking for money. It's these people understand business, so they get into these bigger projects. So it's actually easier to renovate an apartment building because I can put a qualified, accountable contractor in place versus having to find some handyman to come in and renovate a house for $10,000 or $5,000 or $15,000. So you deal with just a more accountable type person when you're doing bigger projects. There's national contractors and regional contractors who go around the entire area, the entire southeast, and they'll travel wherever you have deals. It doesn't have to be in your own local backyard. So that helps, right? It's hard to pull the wool over my eyes, absolutely, because I've been through all this stuff, right? I've been an operator in all these other asset classes, and so I'm familiar with it, and it's hard for me to get screwed, right, from a contractor. So
Right.
there's definitely value in all the education that I've been through over the course of losing time and losing money over the past 11 years that I've been investing in real estate. But do you need that experience? Can you get away with not having it? I think as long as you have somebody that you can partner with that experience, I think you can get into some bigger deals. It's definitely feasible.
What's your opinion on managing a manager? Like, do you self-manage all your units, or do you actually have a property management company that
We
reports
do,
to you?
yeah, we do both. So here in Cleveland, we have an in-house property management. We manage all of our own properties. Down in Georgia, we have the same thing. Out in Texas and Oklahoma, we use third-party management. I'm closing on a couple of units a couple hundred units in Illinois, and so we're buying those. We use third-party management there. Same thing with some stuff that we have down in Louisiana. We use third-party management there, and the reason being is because we just don't have enough scale there to have in-house
Right.
property management. And I just don't. I actually want to get away from property management. It's kind of it's a lot of work. It's a lot of headache. It's unfulfilling, right? Like
Right.
it's nothing but issues. So I'd rather staff that out if I can find a qualified management company. Um, so in-house stuff, we manage all of it in-house. I have a director of property management, and then she has several kind of leasing agents and maintenance staff and other project managers that report and connect with her, and she's kind of the one who runs that. She's like the GM of that side of things. When we have stuff out of state, I have like an asset manager here in Cleveland who can asset manage. He can just look at reports, and pull things up and hop on a phone call with the local partners, the local management company as much as needed, and we're able to do it that way. So they handle all the day to day. We get the weekly reporting and the monthly reporting. We hop on a phone call once a week for 15 minutes and just bang out phone calls and KPIs and all that stuff. And that's really the key, is having metrics. If you
So
don't measure, you cannot manage. So you have to have KPIs in place for every role and understand what those are.
so speaking of KPIs, which is my favorite, right? What are the five most top KPIs you need to have on your desk every day when it comes to your portfolio?
Yeah, great question, bud. So number one is a lot of people think it's like occupancy. It's not occupancy. It's collections. I've bought
Okay.
apartment buildings that were highly occupied, but we're not collecting before, right? And so that is a false indicator. So collections is number one for. Let's go down the line. Like my acquisitions guy. Like
Hmm.
you want to count number of deals that you close. You can't really control that because there's so many variables in real estate, but you can control how many offers you make, how many letters of
Right.
intent you put out. And so that's like his number one KPI on a daily, weekly basis. My project manager, are we on time? It's actually a ratio of time and budget. Are we on time? How much money's gone out based on what the total budget is? What's that percentage? And how much time has elapsed compared to what the total time frame is, and are those two numbers congruent? You never want to let a contractor get ahead of the money, right? So you want to
Right.
make sure
Exactly.
that you've done more work than's actually been paid out, and so we're paying attention to those things, and the overall time frame and the overall budget of that. So those kind of KPIs. From an asset management perspective, we're looking at what's the collection rating. We're looking at number of like open houses and showings we've done, and number of we can't really control rental applications, but we pay attention to that to make sure that we can follow up with those people and get them all leased out. So collections is the number one though. on that side of
Okay.
things. And then what else we got? Yeah, I would say those are our main things. Raising
So,
private
so
money is a big another pillar of our business. Making sure that we're reaching out to private investors, touching them, and holding at least one webinar talking about like me doing social media attracts a lot of private investors, right? Me doing live coaching events attracts a lot of private investors. Like me doing those kinds of things fuels a lot of the deal flow and the money flow for our business. So I'm making
so
sure like that's my KPIs, making sure I'm putting
right.
content out there.
So I noticed like the way you're investing in like the Midwest areas, and I'm not sure if you're a believer of global warming, but what are you doing for like crisis management? Like I seen like Rod, like he posted like a month ago, a tornado hit his units, and he was out there trying to take care of that. So is there certain procedures in place that if something like a natural disaster occur, that your team out there in assessing the situation as soon as possible?
I mean, dude, that's why God invented insurance, right? So that's at the end of the day, man. I think there's things that are outside of our control, which is acts of God, you know.
Right,
And so there's nothing that I can do on that front. All I can do is make sure that I have the right asset protection things in place. I have the right insurance in place. I have the right team in place. And dude, I had one of my buildings early on did not have the right insurance. The whole thing burned down, and because I didn't have the right insurance, dude, I took essentially 30 cents on the dollar of what I should have gotten because I didn't have the right insurance in place. So I'll never make that mistake again. And we have loss of rental income, it's loss of business income insurance. So it covers your rents while you get the thing back up and running. We do replacement costs. We don't use ACV or actual cash value. We make sure
right,
that we're going to be able to replace everything. If it's an older building, you want to make sure that you have all the different code upgrade type stuff and all these different potentially add-ons into your insurance and make sure like all those things are in place. So yeah, man, we pay attention to all of that. And then we just focus on finding deals and finding good deals and finding wholesale price deals. Like I think a lot of people say, oh yeah, like location, 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 number one rule of real estate. Dude, I made a lot of money in the hood, right? That's not the best
right,
location. But because I always bought at a wholesale price, I was able to make money. And so for
right.
me, wholesale, wholesale, wholesale is the number one rule in real estate. And what I do is I just focus on making sure we're buying at a low enough cost basis. We're all in for 65% of the after repair value. So we're all in for 65 cents of the stabilized value is what you call it in commercial real estate. And so if it's a $10 million apartment building, when it's all said and done, I got to be all in for 6.5 million. The difference though is I don't sell it. I just refinance it with like a, let's say a 75% loan. So they'll give me 7.5 million. I pay off my investors. I pay off my construction loan, and then I have long-term financing in place. It's long-term, fixed interest rate, non-recourse, meaning I'm not personally guaranteeing it, long amortization schedule, and I'm still at a low enough basis. My investors are all paid off, so there's no risk. It's essentially just house money in play, and
Right.
I think that gives you a lot of options. And you know, depending on what happens with the market, depending on what happens with the natural disaster or something like that, like if you're in at a low enough basis, you have options. You can refinance it at what your loan amount is. You can refinance it potentially for more than your loan amount and take some cash off the table. You can sell the property. Maybe you can sell or finance or do some sort of a wrap mortgage or there's a lot of different options if you're at a low enough basis. Where you're not in a good position is when you have to make a decision. You have to pay back your investors. You're in a tight spot. You have to pay off your loan, and you owe too much. Where now it limits your options, and dude, that's when people get in a jam.
Let's talk about cultivating relations with your investors. Like, I see you sometimes out on the boat. Like, I always follow you, bro. Like, I see you sometimes out on the boat. I'm not sure if that's your mastermind buddies or that's some of your investors. Like, what's the important ways that you can kind of like show that your investors that hey, if shit hit the fan, I'm gonna be the guy that's working third shift at McDonald's, making sure you get your money back.
You do pay attention, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a relationship kind of thing. You know, it's um, doing little deals, doing a lot of little deals, right? And so like last, I don't know, 18 months ago, I had a big deal that investor was supposed to bring 4 million bucks and it fell apart the Friday before Monday closing.
I
He brought
remember that.
he brought no money, right? And so I had to raise 4 million bucks in 48 hours. And I reached out to all these different people, all these people that I knew had money. And the reality is There was one guy specifically, I'll give you an example on him, who brought $1.5 million over the course of a weekend because I hopped on a couple of phone calls with him. The reason he did that and that was like a lot of money for him, dude. A lot. That's like really getting outside of his comfort zone. The reason he was willing to do that is because I did 3 small deals. Dude, the biggest deal I ever did with him was 200 grand on a transactional flip. All right, it was like an apartment building that I just contracted, sold it in the same week, and it was 200 grand. It was very short term. The other 2 biggest deals was, I think there was like a $65,000 deal and a $40,000 deal. Those are the only deals I've ever done with this guy. But because I did a couple small deals and he saw me pay him back in full, pay him back on time or early, maybe even juice it a little bit, give him a little bit better of a return than he even asked for, building those types of relationships builds a lot of confidence, a lot of trust, and then those people are willing to kind of go outside their comfort zone to help you out in a deal because they know you're good for it, right? And it's just, dude, it's called integrity. It's doing what you're, and that's not, I'm not trying to be like altruistic or anything. It's just integrity at its basic level is just doing what you said you were going to do. And so, dude, if you tell somebody you're going to call them or be on a phone call with them at 12 noon on Tuesday, guess what? You better freaking be on a phone call at 12 noon on Tuesday. That ruins your credibility. And that's something that, takes a long time to grow, takes a long time to cultivate, and it can go away in an instant. So it's a very, very critical thing that you want to keep on paying attention to.
So what's the future for 2020? Like, what's your goals? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, great question. I have, by the end of this year, I'm going to sell off a couple of units, like some smaller stuff that I have in my portfolio, about 150 units. And then I'm picking up 600 some units as well. So I'll be probably somewhere in the ballpark of 3,500 units by the end of the year. And my portfolio value will be right around $300 million, maybe a little bit north of that, 305, 310, somewhere in that ballpark. My goal is $1 billion portfolio in the next 24 months. So, wow. Yeah, essentially, if I'm all in for 65 cents on the dollar, I need to pick up $700 million worth of real estate over the next 2 years. So it's $350 million a year, which means 65 cents on the dollar is around, let's say, $250 million, which means I have to go and raise. Are you following me on this math? So.
Oh man, I'm good with you. I'm riding. Okay. I got you.
All right, good. Yeah, so 2 years, 700 million more is what I need. Divided by 2, that means 350 per year. If I'm all in for 65 cents on the dollar, that means my actual cost basis on the property is about $250 million worth of property. And if I bring 20% down on that, that means I have to raise about $50 million. Dude, I got probably 75 to 100 sitting on the sidelines if the right deals come across. So I could potentially hit that in the next 12 months if I found the right deals.
So for people out here that's like maybe marketing towards deals, what are your criteria? So that way they'll know what to bring you so they won't waste your time.
Yeah, I look for value add deals in good areas. So it's you look for the worst house on the best block, right? I look for the dumpiest apartment building in the best area, right? And these are things that I can force appreciation. I can create value there. So I'm looking for value add in good school districts, safe neighborhoods, good economic anchors. A lot of the stuff that I buy is like near higher education or military bases or big business or, you name it. So we do a lot in that regard. And it just has to be a good deal. Essentially, I have to be able to be all in at my basis for 10% cap rate. So if I'm buying an apartment building and I'm all in for $6 million, it needs a yield $600,000 a year net income at the end of the year. That's awesome. A 10% return. So and I'll buy pretty much anywhere in the country as long as it's 100 units or bigger.
So, and I'm assuming your network is big enough for you to be able to sponsor your own loans.
Yeah. I sponsor all my own loans. I've never had to bring in an outside sponsor.
That's awesome. Do you? I'm going to take a few more minutes of your time because I know time is of the essence. Do you want to answer a few questions?
By the way, I'm good for as long as you need. I only have like 20% left on my battery, and I get the
Me too. Let me check my battery. I got 31. I'm always on the phone.
So if I drop off, it's not because of disrespect. It's just because the battery it just flashed.
Yeah, guys. If you're watching and you're liking this, drop some questions. Drop some good, serious questions. You got a man here who's controlling a hell of a portfolio on his way to $1 billion. This guy bought 2,000 units in 1 year. Like that's some BHAG goes, big hurry audacious goes. Like
Yeah.
so, just drop your questions and he'll try his best to answer whatever questions you got. I'm gonna start off reading some of the earlier questions. Um, I think you already answered that question, but April asks, do you try to stick with mid-rise multifamily?
Yeah, everything that I have is I don't know, smaller than I think 3 or 4 levels, 3 or 4 stories.
Okay.
I don't know if I have any buildings with elevators in them right now. I don't think I have any. They're all
That sounds
walk-ups,
like it could cost a
three
lot.
stories. Yeah, yeah,
Elevators.
elevators get expensive. I've looked at some bigger stuff. I've looked at some high-rise stuff. Um, just couldn't make the numbers work.
I remember you was talking about a deal in New York City, and everybody was laughing at you on the post. And it kind of made sense, your argument about you would buy that deal for all that money.
Yeah, I mean it was the Chrysler Building, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly. That was you talking about.
and so the Chrysler Building is the third most famous building in New York City, right? It's one of the most iconic buildings in the entire world. And crazy story. This is a good story. That building last sold in 2009 to 2010, I think it was, for $800 million. Okay, some oil money out of the Middle East came in, paid $800 million at the bottom of the market.
Right.
So they put it back on the market 9 years later, and beginning of part of this year, it hits the market, and it's one of those like price to be determined by the marketplace, right? And everybody's
Right.
like, they're underwriting it. Oh, this is cool, and they're looking at the numbers and like, this thing does not make sense whatsoever. Like, why nobody's gonna like they got to be asking probably north of $1 billion for this thing, or that's what's going through the seller's mind
Hmm.
probably, right? And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I'm not even gonna make an offer on it. Okay. Some group out of like Switzerland comes in and they look at the numbers and they say, hey, it's worth $150 million to me. And they make an offer at $150 million. Guess what? They got the freaking deal because they're the only one who swung the bat.
Man,
Dude,
oh man.
they can't hit a home run unless you swing the bat. You got to swing the bat. You got to make offers. And I didn't even know the deal existed because I would have made an offer, right? Um, But they essentially the seller took 20 cents on the dollar,
Right.
less than 20 cents on the dollar of what they paid for it in the bottom of the market. This is the top of the market. Everybody's like, there's no way, there's no way. It's the top of the market. They're going to want more money. Dude, how big are your balls to come in and make an offer at 18 cents on the dollar, right? In the hottest real estate market we've had in
Man.
a long time, when somebody bought it in the basement of the real estate market for 800 million bucks. You're like, holy cow, the size of the kahunas on these guys. So, they come in, they get the actual deal, and they bought it. And then people are like, still, oh my God, it's probably not even worth $150 million. Like, there's a land lease that jumps up and this and all this. I'm like, dude, I don't. If you broke even if you lost a little bit of money on it, you know what that deal does? It gets you a seat at every table to make a
I
bid on
agree.
any deal across the freaking world. You can
I
buy
agree.
anything now because now you come in, pound your chest a little bit, and be like, I own
Right.
the Chrysler Building in New York City. Every real estate investor across the world knows what that building is. And so
That's
it just gets you a seat at the table. How much more money can you make on every other deal? How much more posture do you have when I'm going and making an offer on a 700 unit apartment portfolio when I tell them I also own the Chrysler Building? Oh wow, this guy's legit. We ought to take a serious look at his offer, right? And
right.
now I can come in a little bit lower and all of a sudden negotiate a better deal with all these other different sellers, and you make up for it 10 times, 100,000 million times over on all the other deals that you do because you own something like that.
But not only that, when I was sitting back listening to your argument, I was saying, well, if you got enough bigger portfolio outside the Chrysler Building, look how much depreciation that would get you alone that you could offset any active income that you're making. So as
Yeah,
long
man.
as the building breaking even as far as rents and rentals, I want to see why you want to own it.
Dude, I would buy it in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
So someone asks, what's the best way to raise private money?
Um, Dude, it's just telling people what you're doing. Again, it's everybody tries to be a super secret agent. They just assume that you know that people know that you raise private money for real estate deals. People don't know. It's an educational process. It's not a sales
Right.
process. It's an educational process, letting people know what you do, how you do it, how you pay. I will say that everybody who lends money usually falls into one of two categories. One is debt, or two is equity. Meaning, if you're lending in debt, that means there's a very predictable, hey, I'm going to lend you $100,000, you're going to pay me 10% or
Right.
12%, that's $1,000 a month. Very predictable. There's no ups, there's no downs. Very, very fixed, right? You don't get any tax advantages or anything like that. Then there's on the other side of the coin is an equity investment. That means, hey, if the property goes up in value or the property goes down in value, I'm along for the ride, and I only get paid if the property's performing. So it's very volatile, but you get some long-term wealth building, and you get a lot of the tax advantages of that.
Right.
One of the things that I've done is I've taken it and created a hybrid of the two. I've realized that people want both, but there's not a lot of both offerings out there. And so we've created a hybrid where we pay a fixed preferred return with giving a piece of the equity in perpetuity. So my investors get all their money back in 12, 18 months, and they keep equity in the deal forever, and we hold on to it, and then that kicks off cash flow, kicks off refinance proceeds, kicks off sales proceeds if and when the property sells in the future. And so they make a good, predictable return on their investment while it's in play, and then at the same time, they have the upside potential, right? If you're going to make $1 million on a deal, and I'm helping you make that $1 million, isn't it only fair that I make $100,000 as well? Yeah, that's fair. And so that's what we do, man. And it creates a lot of loyalty with our investors, and that's why we're sitting on so much access to capital right now. And now we're always looking for money, right?
Right.
It's one of those things where you're always sourcing money and you're always sourcing deals. If you're doing those two things in real estate, you will always have success. You'll always be able to do deals regardless of where the economy or the market is.
So, say for example, I'm an investor, like put up 300K to one of your deals, and maybe 8 months to 12 months in, they have some type of life changing event. Maybe their wife get cancer and they have to pay for chemo, and they want to pull their equity back out. Is there some type of guidelines that you follow if an investor ready to pull out early than was anticipated, or they have to wait until you refinance the property?
Yeah, so by paperwork, they have to wait.
Okay.
There's no, hey, let me get my money back. There's none of that going on. Now, if a scenario like that happened, though, absolutely, I would figure out a way and say, hey, listen, I can swap you out. You're gonna have to forego your equity because I'm gonna have to give it to the person who's bringing the money in.
Right.
Are you okay? Like, if everybody's agreeable to that, then yeah, I would swap them out, bring somebody else in, and then get them their money back. But from a paperwork standpoint, like, dude, there's so much other stuff that can go wrong in real estate. The last thing you want to do is go paint yourself into a corner and all of a sudden let other people who are not active in the business, probably not professionals, probably not as expertise as you have, dictating what you're going to do with your deal, right? Like that just
Right.
makes no sense. And so I'm not willing to give up that decision making to that. And so our paperwork, my reputation speaks for itself, right? And so our paperwork allows us, says, hey, if somebody wants to get out, I'm sorry, you got to wait until we refi the property. What if we can't refi? Then the money stays in there longer, and you keep on making your fixed return. If you make 10% of your money, like, that's still pretty friggin' respectable, right? When everything else is crumbling out there, if I can still pay 10% return on your investment, and it just takes a little bit longer, that's still a pretty good deal for the investor.
Exactly.
And so if that's worst case scenario, it's a pretty good worst case scenario. And best case scenario, we able to turn it over, refinance it, get them all their money back, get them some refi proceeds. All of a sudden, their cash on cash return jumps up significantly. And now,
Awesome.
and then they keep equity forever. And guess what? You know what the next question is? What's the next deal? Let's roll it into another one, right?
So,
Yo, dude, my phone's
then
shutting
you,
down. My phone's shutting down.
okay,
I love
appreciate you. Yeah, guys, Tim, his phone died. Thank you guys so much for hopping on this Facebook Live. Tim Bratz, if you don't know who he is, he's a seasoned investor that owns a big multi-family portfolio in the country, Midwest, everywhere. So reach out to him. If you want to learn more about what he does, just reach out to him. He's just like me. He's very transparent. He goes on live. He shows people what he's doing. He talks the talk and he walks the walks, guys. So if you're looking for someone that you can gather more information from, maybe you're at that side of the river where you ready to cross the river over to commercial. You don't have to go and pay for no education just yet, guys. Go and study the people that's doing this business. So by the time you're ready to start doing this business, you can approach somebody like Tim. Like that's one of my game plans, to approach somebody like Tim to say, hey, I have a wholesaling company and we understand how to generate deals. I know what his criteria is. Let's go out here and try to get something locked up. Let's approach Tim, somebody who has a net worth that's big enough that can sponsor these loans. And if I get whatever equity I can get plus something up front, I'm good to go. So 2020, that's one of my game plans. That's why I was adamant about bringing Tim on. I know a lot of people that's in real estate right now that want to cross over into commercial, and people like Tim is the bridge that can get you to that point. You get what I'm saying? He has enough experience and is around enough people and have a relationship with enough people that can really help get you on point. I appreciate you guys for watching us. We did the Nothing But Nuggets early today. Look out for us next week as we start to really dive deep into building wealth and learning. And I'm going to have someone on from Finance of America. Her name is Lindy Pons. She's going to be talking about refinancing. She's going to be talking about how you can start off doing small deals without, bank statements and W-2s and stuff like that. So you can get into these deals and then eventually scale up to what Timmy's doing, especially if you want to buy a hold. They got an awesome loan program, up to 20 units, where the deal itself gets qualified, not you. And they allow you to take that deal down. So that's exactly where I'm headed, where I'm going. So as you follow me on this journey, I appreciate you. If anybody know anybody that's looking into getting a multifamily, definitely reach out to Tim. If you just click on his Facebook page. I think he has an Instagram too, but click on his Facebook page, and I'm pretty sure he'll add you. If you're looking to get to the next level, our January meetup, the girl from Finance of America, she will be there. The beautiful thing about Finance of America, they'll give you a line of credit so you can buy houses and renovations and do whatever you want. It's an awesome thing, and I'll let her explain that to you. Thank you guys so much for all the support. If you want to know anything else, just reach out to me directly and I can answer whatever questions you may have. I'm going to start taping my YouTube series maybe tonight and tomorrow every night, and we're going to start dropping it. Also, if you're going to the DRIP conference, I have an announcement. I'm going to try to make that announcement right now if I can for our next speaker. So come on out. First of all, the DRIP conference, it stands for Double Revenue Increased Profits. Come on out to that. And we're doing a holiday special where you pay a $99 deposit. It can go towards any seat that you want. And you have up until January 1st to make another deposit. So make your $99 deposit. And all the money must be paid by March 1st. The thing about the $99 deposit, there's no refunds, absolutely no refunds under no circumstances. I don't care if Jesus himself came back and took the breath out your body and said, you come with me to heaven. Not getting your money back. So, but what the beautiful thing about the $99 deposit, it allows you to be able to know that you have a seat at the table at one of the greatest events in the country next year as far as transparency and content is concerned. And you only had to sacrifice $99 for the time being. So you can focus on the holidays. You can focus on what's important to you. So we're going to drop that link today. So far, like 7 people signed up just for this $99 deposit. We're having a special on Black Friday. So look out for Black Friday. I'm telling you, it's on and popping. It's a lot of things getting planned. So just follow us and look out for all of our announcements. I'm trying to see if the person I want to, there she go. Let me see, can I bring her on the camera real quick? Oh, yeah. Well, while I got everybody on the Facebook Live, the next speaker announcement for the DRIP conference is my sister. She's from Washington, D.C. She's as real as it comes. She's very transparent, and she's a giver. She's been in this industry for years, man, and she's going to come and light the stage up, no other than April Poirier. So April is going to be at the DRIP conference. It's going to be awesome. Like I said, I wanted females there just as much as men, so it can definitely be a nice combination of people that's going to come and really pour into us. Who is April? April is a really good friend of ours. She knows her stuff. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows development. She knows renovation. She's doing, I think, an assisted living home. She's really smart. So follow her on Facebook, and I promise you, you will love her Facebook stories and stuff. So that's our next speaker announcement for Drip 2020. Look out for the Drip Weekly show coming soon, where we're going to be talking more about Drip. If you have any questions, let us know. It's going to be April 3rd and 4th, National Harbor, Maryland. It's going to be an awesome 2-day event. We have a bunch of speakers: Max Maxwell, Christina Spells, R.J. Bates, Chris Jefferson, April Pardier, Toya Brown. So many people, Steve Train, Cassie, Nicole, like so many different people flying in and coming in to support this movement that we're doing next year. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for everything you do. I appreciate it. Listen, guys, 2020 is almost here. If you don't have your goals written down, write down your goals. Write down your goals, man. You can't know where you're going. You can't have no expectations if you don't even have objectives and goals to kind of make a plan around. You get what I'm saying? If you don't know what you want for your 2020 just yet, your 2020 might not be just as great because you're just going to be living life. But if you say, hey, 2020, I want to buy an apartment building, right? I'm speaking for myself. 2020, I want to buy at least 10 to 15 single families. 2020, I want to make my wholesaling business 100% automated to the point it's become passive income for me, and it's not my day-to-day involvement. There are some goals like that you can use to really set the expectation of how hard you need to go to achieve these goals. So I'm not going to wrap you guys up too much. I appreciate you guys, man. Remember this before I go. Sacrifice now, ball forever. Follow my sister, Christina Spells. I just got the shirt in the middle of the day. Do some shit, right? You need to do some shit. So 2020 is your year, guys.